Today, we're talking all about virtual wholesaling and how you can get started with zero money. Honestly, it's probably the best market to get started with zero money. You can do it locally, but we're all about virtual marketing. And the funny thing is, when I started way back in 2003, this was like unheard of. And honestly, it was really hard unless you had local connection. So I want to go through it today. What we'll do is take the first 30 minutes. I'll walk you through a step-by-step tutorial, the things you have to consider. I'm going to walk you through the pros and the cons, and then I'm going to walk you through the steps you need to initiate your virtual wholesaling market. Let's talk about virtual wholesaling. You guys already know what it is. It's when you do a market outside your own. What do I define as a virtual wholesaling market? Really anything, in my opinion, 100 miles outside of your market. I used to say 75, but honestly, that's just a quick car drive. That's like an hour, maybe an hour, 15-minute drive for a lot of you. So a virtual market is anything you pick outside 100 miles outside your area. And honestly, a lot of you guys are going halfway across the country, and that's great. So let's talk about the pros of why people will do virtual wholesaling. I've already mentioned a few of them. Listen, dude, get this image in your head. You ready for this? You never, if you do it correctly, you never, ever have to leave your house, your home office, whatever you want to call it. You could sit in your pajamas all day if you do it correctly. Why? Because your two main vehicles are a computer and a phone, cell phone, whatever you want to call it. That's it, guys. That's the beauty of it. And most people have those two criteria: a good internet connection, a computer, and a cell phone. If you have those three items, you qualify for virtual wholesaling. Excuse me. Think about this. I'm telling you, full on pajamas, like whatever you want to do, get as creative as you want with your mind. You can do whatever you want. Now, here's another pro. You can pick any market in the United States of America. There's no limits to this. You can do whatever you want. How you pick the market, we're going to discuss that. But you have to understand, why would people do virtual wholesaling? I'm giving you the pros. Don't worry, I'm going to go through the cons, because every guru in America will not discuss the cons with you. And that's why most of you get sucker punched into a course that doesn't work. Sorry, gurus. It's the freaking truth, and you guys know it. By the way, they all tell me when I talk to them. Another positive is you can find a lot more motivated sellers, because you're not just limited to your market. And some of you guys don't have a lot of motivated sellers in your really hot markets. So you got to go find markets where you can find motivated sellers. That's the other pro of doing virtual wholesaling. Now, also not to mention, you can easily run multiple marketing campaigns instead of being limited to your own backyard. I will give you a full disclosure. I always advise you to do your local market. Why? Because you know it better than most people do. And eventually somebody will sell a property that needs some love, needs some help. They have motivation. If you have the skills and you know the market, even if you're doing virtual market, I always want you to stay attuned to your local market. Yes, San Fran, Miami, New York, LA. You would be surprised when people have to sell a property fast. If you could make one connection with them and get it sold, always stay attuned to your local market. So also, here's the other reason. You have an unlimited potential for doing wholesale deals, period. It's the truth. You know that's the truth. That's why people are so attracted to it. So I just ran you through the cons. And honestly, most bulletin points you're going to see on Facebook, Instagram, definitely YouTube, on Google, all they do is accent all those beautiful points. But let me run you through a little bit of the downside. And for full disclosure, I do virtual wholesaling. It worked, but I learned a few lessons when I started out doing it. And I want to share with you these tips so you understand going forward, because most gurus are just going to sell you a course and tell you the positive. And then you're going to find out the negative after you paid, and you're going to have to figure it all in yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the cons. And you know what, dude, go ahead and put in the comments what you think the cons are, and we'll see if we check them all off the box. Just keep it clean, because there's plenty of kids watching this. Okay. Here's the biggest drawback. All real estate is local. I will never dispute this point. I have tried to test this. I have been challenged on this, and I find this statement 100% true. We overcomplicate real estate, and all real estate is local. There's different customs. Sometimes you're by the water. Sometimes you're on farmland. Sometimes you're in major metro cities. Everyone likes their favorite destinations. And for that reason, this is never going to change. How do I know this? Because I've watched at least a dozen major companies try to do wholesaling on a national level. And there's one common denominator. Ready? They all, because you can't run a company and just run like total macros, meaning just big, giant policies. And we'll buy any house under $400,000, because every market's local. A perfect example, you know, as well as I do, you go one town over, you go one county over, it's the buying criteria can be 10, 15% different. Most major corporations operate on anywhere from 12 to 15% margins. So if you wipe that out in half the markets, they're going to go belly up. A lot of these companies gone bankrupt. You've seen all these companies that will buy sight unseen. They pair up with Zillow. You know all the names. They all go broke in the long run. Why? Because all real estate's local. It's never going to change. Guys, I've been doing this 21 years. This statement's truer today than it ever was, and it's not going to change. You can automate the crap out of anything you want. You can throw AI. All real estate's going to be local, and you got to keep that in mind. Next one, your average days to profit in doing virtual wholesaling is around 90 days. Now, it's not the end of the world, guys. Why is that? Because all real estate's local, and it's going to take you 90 days to understand what contracts are going to stick, what price points work, and what price points don't work. You have to understand that going on that. To be honest with you, it's one of the biggest failures I see of wholesalers who get started in this market. So you understand, like anything you start new is going to take some time to learn. Wholesaling itself takes some time to learn. Now, you don't need to learn the whole thing. You don't need to know everything about real estate. You got to understand how to market. You got to understand how to talk to people and find motivated sellers. You figure out that part, I can get you to the profit faster. But trying to figure out what the local values are of that market and you're not from it, it just takes time. How does it take time? You have to fail on quite a few deals. It's just the truth. Guys, I've been through it personally. And whenever I start a new market, other than my skill set of talking to people, I don't know the local markets and I screw it up all the time. So I don't say that to scare you, but you have to understand when you go in, you're going to have to give yourself a 90-day window. And I don't count profits as writing contracts. I count profit as putting it in your bank account. So some of you might take 180 days. It's just the truth on this matter. And you've got to understand that going into it. Here is, and I'm going in order of how I see this stuff. So if all real estate's local, it takes you 90 days on average. What do you think happens in those 90 days? It's not that you're doing nothing. Here's what's happening. You have a high contract fallout rate, meaning every time you write a contract, it's going to fall out. When we do our local markets, we have about an 85 to 90% acceptance rate. Anywhere from 80 to 90%, maybe 75 if you're super aggressive. And I don't have a problem with that number, but once you get below 75%, you got to ask yourself, what the hell are you doing? And now in a local market, that might just be inexperience, but in a virtual market, it is not uncommon. I believe the industry average is around 55%. Guys, think about that. That's almost half the contracts fail. Why? Because all real estate is local. It's no big deal. You have to factor it in your business plans. You are never going to get the closing ratios you get in a local market. And I'll go in a little bit more depth on that. But knowing this stuff will help you understand the challenges with virtual marketing. And most people will not stick out the 90 days because they want an instant profit and they don't understand why they can't make it stick. The reason is you're going to have a higher contract fallout rate. And I will go through in details in this presentation of why that happened. Okay. Now, why do they fall out? Let's just move on to the next one. You can't see the real estate, so you're going to have hidden problems. Do you ever think sellers lie to you? Absolutely. More than half of them are lying to you up front. And you guys know it. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. But the difference in a local market, you can get your eyes, you go out, look at it. You can have someone quickly get in a car. When it's virtual, sometimes you never know. And either you send someone by to inspect the property for you. Maybe you send a friend, a colleague, a JV partner, a realtor, I don't know, an inspector, and you find out the house needs $70,000 of repair and you thought you had a great deal. This is why the contracts fall out. You can't see them and it's okay. It even happens in our local market. I'm just telling you the facts with it. It is a big part of this deal. So you've got to understand. Now, when you can't see it and you find out about it, it doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means you have to spend more energy renegotiating it. And it takes a lot of phone skill to do that. And you'll learn how to do that. Now, keep in mind, because it's virtual, you can't get belly to belly with your sellers. That means you're not standing right in front of them, because when you stand in front of someone, you get this magical ability to not only hear the words, but almost 70% of communication is nonverbal. If you don't believe me, if you're not married, you don't have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, if you don't have a sibling, a mom or a dad, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can see their facial reactions. You can see the eye roll. When people look up, when they look down. Guys, I study people. I find them absolutely fascinating. If you really want to get really good at negotiations, being able to look at people and be present with them gives you a huge upper hand in negotiations. You're not going to get that in virtual. And those of you who go, well, I'll just FaceTime them or I'll Skype them. It's hard. I'm just like the reality of if you got 10% of the people to do that, I would be really amazed with it. But you lose that nonverbal communication cues, and that's why that's going to factor into if your contracts are going to stick or not. Now, I've kind of gone through the basics of the pros and cons. If you guys got any others you want to throw on here, I would love to hear it. You can throw it on there. So let's just walk through how do we do virtual wholesaling, because I'm trying to stay on the shot clock here of 30 minutes or less. So how do we start virtual wholesaling? Honestly, you just got to do it. Most of you are going to overthink it. So if you're stuck in one of those markets that I've mentioned before, a major metropolitan area, like you don't have a choice. So that's an easy decision for you. If you're on the fence and you're in an area and you think it's saturated or not, honestly, be careful when you just label your market saturated, because I'm in probably one of those most saturated markets on planet Earth in South Florida. Now, I've been doing this a long time, but if I started out in South Florida right now, there's still opportunities here. You're going to have to hustle a lot more. So first, stop defining what you think saturated. Remember, it's just your opinion. You have no experience in wholesaling. So for you to have a conversation with yourself and saying, I think my market's saturated, it's just your opinion. You are not an expert enough to make that. So you got to go out and look at the data. So first of all, you've got to start. You got to make that decision. Before you even start, I'm going to throw this out for you. Remember how we always talk about cash buyers list, especially if you're doing the local markets or anything like that? The first thing you have to do in virtual wholesaling, you better create a robust cash buyers list, because the cash buyers list is part of your research project to find out if you're in the right market. If you don't have a crap load of cash buyers, you are in the wrong market. There's nothing worse than getting a good deal and having nobody who wants to buy it. It means you're in a really bad neighborhood, or you're in a neighborhood where nobody wants to buy. So part of your research when doing virtual wholesaling is talking to your customer. Who's your customer? Your customer is the cash buyer, the local cash buyers. Your product is the motivated sellers. So if you don't know what your customer wants, you're going to get screwed. So you got to do this first before you do anything else, because it's part of your research. If you don't have a lot of cash buyers, you're in trouble. How do you find cash buyers? reilist.com. You can go over to Batch. You can search, guys, you can just search everywhere. List Source, you can actually pull up the cash buyers for free. Go on Flip with Rick on my YouTube channel. I teach you how to do that. You can actually get the information for free. And you can call for rent ads. You're going to have to do it digital because you're not doing virtually. But guys, the cash buyer list is the number one thing you have to start out when you do virtual wholesaling, because without it, you're going to have real problems. I promise you. So let me get back here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is just choose a market. I put the cash buyers list because if you don't do that one, the rest of this will not work at all. You cannot wait till the very end to get a cash buyer, because your shot clock will expire on you. I promise you. So I'm going to give you simple criteria. And by the way, all this criteria and how to do virtual wholesaling is all in freewholesaling.com. It goes into much more detail. I only have so much time to go over this, so I'm giving you the highlight points so you can get an understanding if you want to attack a virtual market. And most of the ways I'm teaching you today is if you have no money. You have an internet, you have a computer, and you have a cell phone. If you have those three things, the rest you can do. You're going to have to work harder than the person with money, but that's just how it works. Your first, other than a robust cash buyers list, which is a must. If you don't have that, don't even pick the market. I prefer 100K population, period. Like the more people you have, the more buyers you're going to have. Now, somebody asked me the other day, what's your minimum? If you go below 50, you have no shot. Between 50 and 100, you're going to have some skill set. But if you want to make it a no-brainer and you're brand new to it and you have no money, start with 100K or more. Why? Because that's what the data tells us, and that's what we've done over time, and that's what works. We've already talked about this earlier. If you're brand new and you want to do virtual wholesaling, please avoid the major metro markets. If you don't know what a major metro market is, look it up. It'll have a huge population. It's very established, and it's going to kill you. Now, I already mentioned this earlier. You got to have a ton of cash buyers. I'm going to keep mentioning it over and over. It's going to keep popping up. The next thing you need to do is you need to look for homes that are at or below that market medium price, period. So if I'm in San Fran and you see the average price is 2.3 million, it's probably not going to work for wholesaling. They're just too sophisticated at the price because it's a very mature market. Typically, you're looking for 400K or less, period. But that's so you can look up the US average price, which I believe is just below that or right at that, and you want to stay below it. The lower you go, the more demand you're typically going to have. If you get above that average price, you're going to have more sophistication. It's much more complex, and you're going to have less buyers, and you're going to have a ton of wait time. And none of that stuff works in wholesaling. So you've got to just use the the simple criteria. So we talk about population, avoid major metro market areas. And I'm here to tell you, if you have a very established market, look on the outskirts of it. I have made a killing doing this, and you have to test it out a little bit. But sometimes, like when Miami has always been a big market, you looked at like the areas just south of Miami, like Homestead. Homestead for the longest time was one of the best wholesaling markets ever. The drawback is you had to be bilingual to operate there. If you could put that together, any one of you in the last 10 years would have destroyed Homestead. Homestead now, the prices are ginormous. It is not a great deal anymore. It is possible, but it's creeping up to the full Miami downtown levels. And I'm telling you, I knew this for a long time. It worked really well. And why? Because people got tired of the prices in Miami, and so they started trying to find affordable areas. Homestead was always considered the working man's community. It's where people went home for the service industry. They went back and forth from the Keys to downtown Miami. Now, all of a sudden, the average house is like $650,000. Before, you could buy them all day at $100,000, $150,000. And I'm talking about brand new homes, guys. So what you need to do is duplicate markets like that. So if you're in a major market, especially in like California or Florida, look at the outskirt areas where you're looking for the next gold and where people are going, businesses are going. Always look for Home Depots, Walmarts, and Starbucks. Wherever those pops up, they are servicing their customer base, and they do a ton of research. You do not have to overfigure this. So, but now, guys, when it comes to research, I'm watching my shot clock, I'm almost done. Don't reinvent the wheel here. I do not spend money on marketing when finding a virtual market. Why? Because I like other people to do the heavy lifting for me. Here's how I do it. I'm going to give you my market hack. Ready? It's right here. Find ego-driven wholesalers. If you can't find one, you are not on social media. People who brag about how great they're doing. Take their information, get on their cash buyers list, and verify what they say is true. Meaning, go look in the property appraiser site, go look on the clerk reports, and make sure they're buying. Look at what the purchase price on the property and what it was sold for. And once you can verify that, find that zip code, put a map. Now, I used to do this old school with the map on the board, and you pin it and go see if other people are having success there. Get on their cash buyers list. They know where the gold is. All you need is the map. They're going to give you their map because young wholesalers love to brag. I used to be one of them. I'm not a hypocrite. And listen, I'm probably responsible for bringing 2,000 wholesalers to Port St. Lucie alone. Period. No, I'm not. I got every guy from like Phoenix that comes over here. I got every guy and gal from California. I got a ton of ladies over here. I don't care. It doesn't bother me, but I'm telling you, when we point that and you go on there and brag and you get on their cash buyers list, they don't vet their cash buyers list because they're too important and they have their VA doing it. It's like a piece of cake. So all you have to do, you have to verify their information. And once you do that, just duplicate the areas they're marketing to. And it's not hard to figure this out. Honestly, guys, I still do this today. I rely on people bragging on the internet because it's the easiest way to duplicate their success. And here's the key. I didn't spend any money. I know where it's hot right now because in wholesaling, you got to find out where it's going on now, not 6 months, a year or two, whatever happened in 2020 or 2021. You're in a different world right now. So people's ego, and I teach you on the Rick and channel, the Flip with Rick, and I teach my son, you've got to drop your ego to be a successful wholesaler because you just pave the path for other people and you make it harder for yourself in the long run. So use this trick or not, I'm telling you, it is the most powerful trick. Or go out and spend $3,000 in market research and test it out for years, or just use my little hack. It works really well. I know I upset a lot of gurus and a lot of people by doing it, but it's the truth. If they don't post it and they truly vetted their cash buyers list, they would never, ever have this problem. But the most part, 95% of wholesalers, they don't vet their cash buyers list. And most of it is riddled with wholesalers. And most of them are looking to knock them off. And that's how it goes. Guys, it happened to me for years. I figured it out and I got really pissed when I found out. And I go, well, hell, I'm just going to use this strategy. And they taught me a lesson. Okay, moving on. The next one is we got to go out and create niche. You got to go out and create your niche list. So if you're doing this for free, what you want to do, the best niche list you can get are government lists. If you want the plethora of government lists, go over to freewholesaling.com. I go into detail on you. Pre-foreclosures, probates, evictions, water shutoffs, fire damage. The list goes on, and it's super long. And you got to get those lists and you attack them, and you simply got to skip trace them. Now, if you skip trace them for free, you guys know the drill, truepeoplesearch.com, or you can use one of our preferred providers. And it's anywhere from like 10 to 12 cents per lead to skip trace it. It's up to you. If you got no money, then you're just going to have to suck it up with a little hustle muscle. And the next thing is what marketing method you're going to do. This is not rocket science, guys. It's very straightforward. So you're virtual. I've already told you one, you got to have a phone. So you know where I'm going with that. That's going to be cold calling and texting. Honestly, they're the two most popular ones. But what a lot of you do is once you get set up within your 90 days of your virtual wholesaling is you want to find local partners. Now, if you're fortunate enough to be doing a virtual market where you have family and friends, or maybe you went to school there, or maybe you grew up there, then it's easy to get people to help you. And if you can do that and it's the right market, go for it. So what you can do is compensate people to help take pictures. You can have people help get signatures for you. It's really easy to do it. Now, I will tell you, you have to use a local title company in your market. And if you have to get a mobile notary, it's very easy for them to get signatures for you. I think it's $75. It's well worth it to do it. Now, if you can get a JV partner, my recommendation is if you can get someone to go out and help you find deals and you use the skill set to follow up on these leads, you can really create some win-win situations. How do you do it? Simple, driving for dollars, reverse driving for dollars. Partner up with a JV. Don't be cheap on this, guys, because if they go out and get you a huge list and you know it's a quantity game, the more you can convert them, the more you can pay. My recommendation is like a 50-50 because they are there. You are sitting in your home. Unless you want to get on a plane or get in a car and drive 1,000 miles, take care of these people. If you pay them like 10%, you will never see them again. So you want to pay them well. And do not overcomplicate virtual wholesaling. The reality is, 2-page contract. Keep it simple. You don't need a full realtor's contract. If you want to get the contract, over to freewholesaling.com. We share the whole thing for you for free. It's no big deal. And then basically, you are going to market your contracts via assignment contract to cash buyers. Why? Because you've already built a robust cash buyers list and you're ready to unload these things. And here's the secret, guys. You got to understand, virtual wholesaling, you have to leave enough money to incite a cash buyer to take action. And if you're not going to leave money in it, I promise you, anything you do in virtual wholesaling will not work. Think about this. A cash buyer is not going to buy your deal unless he or she thinks they can make a profit. If you're under the mindset, the way all the gurus taught you the last 5-7 years to be a professional disposition real estate agent / wholesaler, it does not work in wholesaling. So there's entire courses made up about JVing with wholesalers like you and me, and then making 5 or 10 grand off of them to try to dispo their deal. That's what you call a realtor. Now, listen, I'm all about doing JVs, but if your whole mission is nothing more than connecting with other people like me to find motivated sellers, you got to ask yourself, are you truly a wholesaler? Maybe a transaction engineer. You're definitely a disposition person, AKA real estate agent. Guys, I never got in this business to be a real estate agent. I'm all about people helping and finding deals, but understand when you do virtual wholesaling, you're going to be pounded by these people, because there's an entire course that teaches you how to go out and find people like us that do virtual wholesaling, and they want to make as much, if not more than you do. And here's what they're going to do. They're going to have you option your contract. And here's the problem is they're going to be marketing it through their own channels. That's where they spend the money, and they're welcome to do it. And then you're going to try to go out and sell your own, and you're going to compete with all these people. I would avoid those people like the plague. Here's how you know them. They're going to post in all the social media groups, hey, got any cash buyers? You got cash? I got cash buyers. You got a deal, and they promise you the world. They have a failure rate of probably 90 to 95%. Why? Because I used to let them all do it. My virtual wholesaling. I will not even take them anymore. If they do not show a robust business where they actually do wholesaling and they are a professional disposition real estate agent, then I might as well just go to a real estate agent as opposed to a dispo person. If you have a cash buyer, that's great. Do not sign contracts with these people unless they have a buyer ready to go, because they're just optioning you. And guess what? If they can't find a buyer and you're relying on them, you're going to lose your deal. So you should not be relying on people like this.